court ruling overnight in which a judge ordered the energy regulator Nersa to recalculate the electricity prices that you pay in Joburg, Ekurhuleni, Madibeng and Umsunduzi after several businesses and one business group said the tariffs were discriminating against them. So what that means is it is possible that once the tariffs have been recalculated, households who've already paid too little for their electricity might have to pay more to make up the difference. Some of the companies would have paid too much. They might have to be reimbursed in some way. Melanie Veness is the CEO of the Pietermaritzburg and Midlands Chamber of Business. They were involved in this court action on behalf of enterprises and businesses in the Umsunduzi area. They went against the Umsunduzi municipality. Melanie, good evening. Thanks for your time. Why did you bring this application? What was happening to your members that you thought was unfair?
Well, several years ago, in fact, in 2022, we supported some court action against the regulator to challenge the methodology that they employ to determine municipal tariffs, because by law, municipalities are permitted to recover their efficiently incurred cost of supply and a small return on assets, and it has to be calculated per customer category. So municipalities have to submit that cost of supply to get an increase. And in our case, our municipality were granted a 15% increase across tariff categories without having looked at the real data per category. And in our case, industrial members appear to be subsidizing other tariff categories. And so that is basically, it's both unfair and bad for our economy, because they're our big employers, and that's just not acceptable. Our economy can't grow, and our manufacturers can't compete if they're not getting a secure quality supply of electricity at a competitive rate.
So the cost of supply issue is something that I think it was sort of in a way you've been ruled upon perhaps in your case earlier, because it is true that municipalities had not been submitting that, Nersa had not been considering that. But at the same time, did Nersa consult you? Because isn't that something they're also supposed to do? So did they make it clear to your members they would be paying more than other people for their power?
No, absolutely not. There is a consultation process, both with the municipality when they determine draft tariffs. We asked for them to share the cost of supply with us, and they refused. We then asked the energy regulator, and they're also compelled to consult with us to share the municipality's cost of supply study so we could engage meaningfully on it, and they too refused. And so they determined the tariff in the absence of making that information available. So we really had no choice but to take this action.
What's your understanding of what happens now? The tariffs will have to be recalculated. I presume the municipalities would have to include a cost of supply. I have to say, Melanie, and I'm sorry to say this, I don't know if all of the municipalities will actually be able to do that.
No, so in our case, our municipality did submit a cost of supply study. Unfortunately, in our view, it was a flawed cost of supply. They've got 10 days from the order made by the court to resubmit their application. I would imagine that they are not going to find much joy unless they review the cost of supply study and put an amended one in that looks at every customer category. And then makes application on that basis. We'll then have the opportunity to interrogate that cost of supply and to make our comments and run a proper process. It's exactly what should have happened when the tariffs were first proposed and considered by Nersa.
There's still a few things that have to happen here, but is it possible that households that ended up with paying less for electricity than they should have because you were paying more, that somehow that money might have to be made up?
Look, I think that it's going to be very, very important for all sectors of society to engage with this cost of supply. If you look at the municipalities' domestic tariffs, they are much higher than the domestic tariffs of Eskom, and essentially they're supplying, they're giving the same service. So I can't see how the current tariffs that they're paying won't be sufficient to cover the costs for their category. So it will be important for all sectors of society to engage with that cost of supply and to ensure that we get fair, cost-reflective tariffs in every customer category.
Melanie Veness, thank you so much. CEO of the Pietermaritzburg and Midlands Chamber of Commerce. Listening to that, Matthew Grootes, the energy expert at Empower. Matthew, good evening. I mean, once again, Nersa has egg on its face. It must be losing credibility as a regulator.
Hello, good evening, and thanks for having me. So yes, unfortunately, this is the case now. This is now following the mistake that they made, the 54 billion rand mistake that was agreed with Eskom, and now that's back in the High Court as well. So there's a lot of egg going on in this space, and this is we shouldn't forget that this is actually something that occurs pretty much every single time that there's a multi-year price determination from Eskom, where they ask for like a ridiculous 50% increase, or last time 36% increase, and then Nersa says, no, you're not going to get that increase, you're going to get a lower one. Don't worry, public, it's going to be initially short-term pain for long-term gain. The first year is going to be only half of what Eskom applied for. In our case, last year, 12.74% increase. But then this year, we were hoping to get a 5.36% increase. But now it looks like it might be even a 10.5% increase. So it is unfortunate that Nersa is going through this situation at a time when we would hope that they would be showing a lot of competence and excellence in the space, because they need to be playing a key role in the unbundling of Eskom to ensure that efficient cost of supply that was mentioned is actually correct and being awarded without Eskom, as they term it, receiving undue compensation. So I've got a big problem with the whole way that this cost of supply is approached, because if you think about it, if you were a company and you're told, oh no, you can replenish any cost that you have with a small margin, you would just inflate your costs and find ways of reflecting more costs. And this has been seen with Eskom. And from my time at Eskom and understanding how it goes with municipalities, they unfortunately view the revenue collected from electricity as revenue that they can spend on anything. So they use it for water infrastructure, they use it for their homes, their houses, their cars, things like that, the fruitless and wasteful expenditure that we hear about. It's the revenue from electricity. So then if that's the case, are they really providing are they really accounting for the costs that they're using to supply electricity? I don't think so. So I'm hoping for a whole review of the way that the cost of electricity is actually determined in South Africa.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, if ever there was a moment for a sort of big bang reform approach, something that really changes it, this would be now. The system is kind of creaking, and the electricity environment has changed so much in the last 10 years. I know there's a review of the tariff structure. I think Sanedi is in charge of that. That'll take some time. What people really want, of course, is cheaper power.
Yes, that's been on the cards for the last 10 years, with the government saying that, all this green electricity that's coming online is going to bring down the cost of electricity, but that's not actually been a reality. So what is exciting is that when this unbundled state of Eskom finally comes into fruition and we have a democratized energy sector, it won't be within Eskom's ability to be like, this is now the price of electricity for everyone. They will be a bidder in the market, no longer a determiner of the cost of electricity. So what will happen is the other independent power producers that are able to provide electricity from solar farms paired with batteries and wind farms paired with batteries, that electricity typically costs half of what Eskom's currently charging. They will bid their electricity on the market, and then all of the less expensive renewable energy will be purchased first, and then Eskom will be able to receive their price. So that'll start driving down the price of electricity. But I see that only happening in about 3 to 5 years, unfortunately.
Matthew Grootes, thank you. Energy expert at Empower.